It's very hard for me to have sympathy in a state that has some of the most lax gun laws in the country, that has pushed anti-trans legislation to an extreme. Like, I'm not condoning the violence, but I understand it. And it's hard for me to have sympathy for what happened, because at the end of the day, you reap what you sow. People like you, this is your fault. All of it. You want to continue to blame us when every one of your actions, or rather the actions you voted for, has come back to bite you in the ass. Don't play victim.
I wonder if the parents of the victims of the Nashville shooting today would still have their children if these trans bills in Tennessee were never a thing. I'm not a parent, but if I were, I'd be real mad at the government. I'd be real mad at the government.
Alright guys, so I gotta tell you, the last 48 to 72 hours has been a real mask off moment for the Democrat Party in regards to how they are 100% on board with the radical left-wing woke agenda in this country that has become extremely violent, okay? In fact, you have Cenk Uygur, who is a progressive, okay, TYT, just 3 days ago, I believe before this Nashville, Tennessee shooting, he actually was telling transgender people how they need to arm themselves because somehow, some way, they're in danger because of right-wing conservatives.
I'll be a little bit of a hypocrite here, but it's not. I'll explain why I'm saying it. I don't like guns. I would ban assault weapons in a second. We can go on and on about the gun control that we need in this country. And I always tell people, don't get guns. It'll make you less safe. I'm gonna make an exception here for trans people. They are actually in danger. They have had hundreds of laws passed against them. They have right-wing media ginning up fear against them 24/7. They are targeted more than any other group in America. And if anyone should get guns, it should be trans Americans, okay? Because I'm worried for them. I'm worried that the right-wing lunatics are going to attack them as they have over and over again. And by the way, it's not just right-wing lunatics, other people attack trans folks as well.
The woke revolutionaries, by far, okay, are responsible for more deaths in this country than what happened on January 6th. And it's not even close, but you don't hear the mainstream liberal media sounding the alarm about the left-wing violence that is happening in this country. In fact, I mean, even after the Nashville shooting, okay, that saw Christian children, okay, and adults be killed, okay, just because they're Christian, okay, allegedly. I mean, we really don't know yet, but I mean, that's what I think. That's what I believe. I believe that this was an act of domestic terrorism, okay, and in the left's language, it was a hate crime committed by a transgender person who probably committed this act of violence in response to being radicalized by progressive left rhetoric in the mainstream liberal media. Now, even after this horrific mass shooting, the mainstream liberal media is silent on this alleged Trans Day of Vengeance protest that is supposed to happen around the country, right? So, again, you know, it's just funny to me how these people who scream about political violence being such a danger in this country because Trump called for protests have nothing to say about the Trans Day of Vengeance, that the protests that are planned around the country just a few days after a mass shooting committed by a transgender person against Christian children. No, they're actually really more worried about protecting people like the shooter.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene took this a step further this afternoon by trying to blame hormone therapy. We have no idea if the shooter was undergoing hormone therapy, but in the words of Congressman Greene, quote, everyone can stop blaming guns now, which is really code for focusing on the shooter's identity, something conservatives don't seem overly concerned about when the shooter is a white man, which is often. Trans people are already more likely to experience violence simply because they are trans people, so the right focusing on that is uniquely dangerous. And we have to respond to that. But it is also a distraction because there are plenty of trans people in plenty of countries all over the world. But once again, America is the only nation where shootings like this happen over and over again. So maybe it's not mental health or video games or hormones. Maybe it's the guns. Today we learned that the shooter in Nashville legally purchased 7 weapons in the past few years, 3 of which were used in yesterday's attack. Maybe that's where the focus should be, how easy it is in this country to legally obtain incredibly powerful weapons capable of horrific destruction. Maybe that's where we have to focus and that everything else is a distraction.
They're silent. They're not sounding the alarms on, hey, you know what, is this actually an incitement of violence, right? Should we be concerned about this? Are more Christian lives in danger? You don't hear a word from them about it. They're ignoring it, which tells you that, again, they're not serious people when it comes to stopping political violence in this country. In fact, they're totally fine with it. They're totally okay with it, okay? And in some cases, they support it. They outright support it when it's done by people they agree with politically. Now, you have some people that are just outright about how they feel, okay, about violence and, you know, whether or not it should be done to their political opponents. Like, for example, Katie Hobbs' press secretary, who, again, had a full mask off moment here where she put out a tweet that alluded to violence, more specifically shooting transphobes just hours after the Nashville mass shooting. Again, very tone deaf, but it shows you guys exactly what these people think and how emboldened they have become. Okay, this is the tweet that she put out. She says, "Us when we see transphobes." Okay, so this is, I don't know who this actress is, okay, but she's holding 2 guns, right? Clearly, it seems like she's threatening violence here. She's saying that, you know, transgender folks, it's okay to commit acts of violence, including shooting people, just because you disagree with them politically. Right? That's the meaning of transphobe, right? If you're proud to be a biological man or woman, if you believe in science and reality, you're a transphobe, or if you disagree with them politically, you're a transphobe, right? So again, this is what's happening. There's no doubt in my mind that her political viewpoints probably are very similar to Katie Hobbs, okay? That's probably how Katie Hobbs feels, especially considering how the press secretary is supposed to be the mouthpiece of the regime, right? And I'm saying regime in Arizona for a reason, okay? But she was fired, aka she resigned, after posting this tweet, okay, to save face for Katie Hobbs.
Hobbs press secretary Jocelyn Berry has resigned after she tweeted this just hours after the Nashville massacre. We covered it earlier. An armed woman alongside the caption, "Us when we see transphobes." Berry resigned after growing pressure from those within her circle and other lawmakers who called the tweet disturbing and highly inappropriate. But of course, as we covered, not the liberal media. So that's news. More outnumbered in just a moment.
Yeah, so she will be rewarded with a job at MSNBC. Okay, once all this calms down, she will get a nice raise and promotion by, again, getting a job at MSNBC or CNN. That's just kind of how it goes, right? But again, the full mask off moment here for the Democrats. You would think that they would take a step back and realize, hey, you know, maybe this rhetoric, maybe this false accusation that what the GOP is doing is costing trans people their lives and that their existence is at risk here. You would think that they would chill out with that rhetoric, okay? Consider how, again, we just witnessed an act of violence against Christians, okay, because of it. But again, you know, the Democrats don't give a damn about Christianity. They only care about the woke religion, right? That is their religion now, okay? Christianity used to be the dominant religion in this country. Unfortunately, it's declining in terms of how many people actually adhere to that religion, and it's been replaced by a new religion, wokeness. And if you don't believe me, I mean, just watch this Democrat politician, this representative from Massachusetts, Miss Catherine Clark, who has a transgender kid, by the way, who was charged with assaulting a police officer. She's going to rail against politicians and preachers and right-wing extremists for their cruelty against trans people, okay? Just a few days after this lunatic murdered 6 Christians. Take a look.
Ahead of Trans Day of Visibility, I rise in honor of a community that is being forced to fight for its very existence. I rise in honor of trans voices that deserve to be heard, not silenced, and not criminalized. I rise in honor of trans joy that deserves to be celebrated, not eradicated. I rise with unconditional love for my trans daughter, Riley, and I rise in solidarity with every trans American seeking nothing less than their inalienable right to the pursuit of happiness. To stand in the way of that right is to stand against our most basic American values. But that's exactly what MAGA extremists are doing across this country, on school boards, in state capitals, here in the halls of Congress. Elected officials are using their power to undermine the freedoms and human dignity of trans Americans. And they're waging an especially vicious crusade on our kids. These attacks make me all the more grateful for the unconditional love that Mimi and Joe LeMay of Massachusetts have for their son, Jacob. Mimi and Joe have faced vitriol and cruelty from right-wing extremists, all because they heard, accepted, and embraced Jacob when he told them he's a boy. A few years ago, Mimi shared a letter she wrote to her son, and I'd like to offer a few of her moving words. You have, at the age of 9 years, accomplished what many adults couldn't in a lifetime. In your courageous visibility, you have changed the course of your own history. You have turned strangers into allies and allies into advocates. Layered in my pride is my concern for you. I know your strength, but I also know how determined the forces are that have pitted themselves against you. The politicians and preachers who would rather see you languish in a dark closet than watch you engage the world as you do, cultivating joy and love wherever you go. Madam Speaker, Jacob's courage demonstrates a profound strength. Let's show that strength the respect it demands. Let's reject the forces of opposition and bigotry. Let's celebrate the bravery and beauty of our trans community. Let's follow Jacob's example and cultivate joy and love wherever we go. I yield back.
Yeah, so does cultivating joy and love include spreading lies about how trans people's existence are at threat because of GOP laws? Right? I haven't seen one GOP law that is actually banning people from being transgender, period. They're just saying, look, you got to wait till you're 18 before you receive hormones and medical treatments. That's it, right? Nobody's actually trying to ban anybody from being trans. I haven't seen that. Haven't really seen anybody attacked simply for being trans. I'm not seeing all this violence against trans people that these left-wing woke revolutionaries are so concerned about. But again, I have seen mass shootings done by trans people. In fact, I can think of 4 right on top of my head. Okay, more people have died from those mass shootings by trans people than what happened on January 6th. But again, you don't hear the mainstream liberal media sounding the alarm on that the way they're sounding alarm about January 6th. It's just kind of funny how that works, right? How some lives seem to matter and others don't, depending on who actually, takes that life. It's amazing that this is where politics has led us, right? It has led us to the point where you have Democrats who are so brainwashed by their new woke religion that they decide to escalate rhetoric, okay, dangerous rhetoric that has resulted in the loss of people's lives, okay, by falsely insinuating that trans people are in some type of existential threat, okay, from the GOP, from Christians, from right-wing extremists, from Trump supporters. Clearly, this is dangerous rhetoric that is resulting in political violence. But Democrats, again, instead of de-escalating, they are quite literally escalating. They're doubling and tripling down on it. In fact, blaming the victims. This is where we're at. When January 6th happened, the right de-escalated, right? There was a quick de-escalation in regards to rhetoric, right? But have you noticed when there's political violence committed by the left, they do the exact opposite. No, they escalate. They say, no, it's justified. What happened with the BLM protests? Oh, no, it's justified. They escalated. What happened with the Roe v. Wade protesters? No, they escalated. Antifa, they escalate. With this, they escalate. Again, it's amazing how that works. These people have no bounds. They really don't. It is not hyperbole for me to say that the Democrat Party has become a party of radical extremism. Okay, they have given a full-throated endorsement to, hey, we're totally fine with all the extremism that goes on the left, right? We're totally fine with political violence as long as it agrees with our political agenda, as long as we politically benefit from it. If they do not de-escalate this rhetoric, right? If they do not rein in this extremism that is festering in their party, this country is headed to a really, really, really dark place, right? We're headed to a period where these types of acts of domestic terrorism, okay, and political violence are going to become so commonplace. And it's going to come from the left because they've been told that it's okay. That, hey, if you commit this act of violence, no, it's fine because those people on the right are they're passing legislation that you don't like, right? It's okay to commit acts of violence against people who disagree with you politically. You're emboldening these people. I'm telling you, man, this is dangerous stuff, man. This is dangerous stuff. Democrats have blood on their hands, and they don't care. They don't care. It's almost like this is what they want. That's what it seems like to me. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.